some extra data during this session. Nothing you need to worry about, but as we have some new parts, we'll just confirm they're performing to spec.
Hello everyone and welcome back to my F1 2019 career mode for the Mexican Grand Prix today. And we have a chance of wrapping up the title this episode if we can outscore Charles Leclerc by more than 16 points. So it's a long shot, but it is possible. So we will try to go for that. Obviously Leclerc will be looking for a good race today to stay in the title fight, but we have some upgrades, or an upgrade on the car to the rear downforce to balance out the front downforce upgrade that we had last time for the Japanese Grand Prix. The car was a little bit unstable, so the car should be a lot better platform now for us to race with. And no rain to interfere with the weekend. We're still the fastest car by a mile, obviously, with that upgrade. So let's just get into qualifying and get this weekend underway.
Welcome back to the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez. It's a circuit that has a huge amount of history, and I'm sure we'll be staging a fantastic qualifying session today. It always looked like the kind of track that asks an awful lot of the rear tyres, such as the frequency of low-speed exits.
No matter how good a driver is at managing their throttle application to limit rear slip, they can't always overcome a car that's inherently bad at looking after its rear tyres. Here we have a lot of low-speed corner exits, which means a whole load of energy, heat and tyre wear.
So we move straight on to Q3 and onto our second lap in Q3, just in the interest of saving time, because this is already going to be a fairly long episode. So here we go through the first three corners, getting through there fairly nicely, but we're in the red compared to our original lap, so we've got some work to do as we continue through the first sector, getting through fairly nicely, running very wide on the exit of turn 5. And that actually probably gained us a bit of time. A red first sector though, so not looking good so far. But as we continue on through, the Delta continues to flash between green and red. A bit of a corner cut there, and don't worry about that. And as we continue through the lap, it's a purple middle sector, and we just need to bring it home, and we may improve our position. We're currently sitting in second place behind Max Verstappen. So we need to make some improvements if we want pole position. So around the final corner we come, and we're going to cross the line.
Okay, good job mate, really well done. That was a fantastic drive.
And we do get the pole position for the Mexican Grand Prix.
We're all ready for tomorrow's race, but before we begin, let's have a quick look at those who will be fronting the grid. The Scientist, Verstappen and Lucas Faber. Well, that wraps up qualifying, but don't worry, we'll be back tomorrow as we head into the Grand Prix.
By 7/10ths of a second, 7.7 actually, or tenths, but track limits, don't worry about that.
Formula One may have been absent from Mexico for 23 years, but after 2015's triumphant return, it was as if we'd never been away. In Mexico, a Grand Prix is more than just a race. It's a celebration of speed and of bravery. There's nothing quite like the atmosphere in the stadium today. They'll be drowning out the cars with their noise as they make their way through on lap 1. At 2,285 metres above sea level, the thin air of the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez poses a unique challenge, not just to a driver's skill, but to the efficiency of their engines as well. 17 corners make up a lap of this 2.6-mile circuit, and you can expect incredible speeds in excess of 220 miles per hour, and overtaking too into the hard braking zones of turns 1 and turn 4. With me today, of course, is Anthony Davidson. Now, we probably ought to start by discussing Sebastian Vettel. There's a new gearbox in the back of that car, which means a grid penalty, and hopefully some excitement as they make their way through the field.
Well, at the end of the day, it's always better to take some pain now than parking it up halfway through the Grand Prix. Let's just hope they can put that new gearbox to good use and get the results they're looking for.
It's time to see how our drivers are stacking up after yesterday's exciting qualifying session. The Scientist lines up on pole position. edging out Max Verstappen, who'll start from P2. Looking at the rest of today's grid, we have Weber, Leclerc, Lewis Hamilton and Perez, Gasly, Hülkenberg, Butler and Valtteri Bottas, Albon, Fiat, George Russell and Magnussen, Giovinazzi, Stroll, Daniel Ricciardo. They've taken a grid penalty, and Kimi Raikkonen, Vettel and Lando Norris starts from the back of the grid. And with preparations almost complete, let's head down to the track.
Okay, the run into turn 1 isn't too long, so the pack will be bunched up. Take care.
The run into turn 1 is quite long, but anyway, the strategy is a 3-stop, 2 different kinds of 3-stops as we experiment with our different options. The hard tyre is just not an option, they are horrendous, it seems, but we're going to see if we can get away with a 2-stop, either 2 softs to mediums or a soft to 2 sets of mediums, and you can see as we fast forward through all the different combinations we tried.
The rest of the grid is forming up. Be patient and watch for the lights.
Yeah, we're going to go for the 2-stop as we now get ready to go to the 5 red lights for the Mexican Grand Prix as we wait for the lights to come on finally now. Now 5 red lights. And it's lights out and away we go for the Mexican Grand Prix, and it's a pretty bad start versus the cars behind. Weber, a superb start, and he's challenging down the inside already as we head towards the first corner, and we're going to have to watch out for the other cars behind as they're all sitting in the slipstream. We're on the outside of Lucas Weber. Can we try to hold it around the outside a little bit deep into the corner? And Weber's through into the lead of the Mexican Grand Prix. We have to leave space on the inside because the Red Bull of Max Verstappen was there, but he gets a pretty terrible exit out of turn 3, and we continue on ahead of him for now, and we can go back to trying to chase after our German F2 teammate Lucas Weber as we head through the first sector for the first time. And well, it has been not the greatest start for us as Sergio Perez and Max Verstappen battle away for the final podium position at the home race for the Mexican. And if you look in the top left, you'll see the names flashing back and forth. Verstappen ahead of that battle at the moment, but Perez, I'm sure, will not be quite finished with that as we continue on, and we start to close up to Lucas Weber as we come to the end of the first lap, and already pushing the limits through the stadium section, clipping the bollard there. And I assure you that will not be the last time in this race. But we get an okay exit out of the final corner. We are gaining on Lucas Weber with our engine power, but I'm not sure we'll be quite close enough. We're actually gaining quite a lot in the slipstream now, and we're going to go for the move around the outside into the first corner, hard on the brakes, late on the brakes, around the outside of Lucas, and we get the move done through turns 2 and 3.
Brilliant. Nice move.
Ahead of Lucas Weber now, and we can set our sights on some clean laps, some clean air ahead of us, but that won't last long because we have Sergio Perez at his home race down the inside, and he takes the lead, and we've got a hit from Max Verstappen. We've run wide, and as we come back on, contact with Verstappen and Weber, and we're around, and that has not gone well at all, and well, that was all just a bit silly on my part. After I got the hit from Verstappen, I was a bit undecided whether to try to make the corner or just cut it and potentially risk a penalty, and it was very costly in the end. I kind of just thought it went halfway in between, and yeah, that has not gone well, as we also made contact with one of the Alfa Romeos. I think it was Giovinazzi, and now we're holding up the Ferrari of Sebastian Vettel, who had a grid penalty, started way back in the field. But that is an absolute disaster on the second lap of this race, and we have quite a compact drive on our hands if we want to salvage anything. So this opens a championship fight right back up for Charles Leclerc if he can bring home a decent points finish today. And well, we're going to be struggling for the next few laps with a bit of front wing damage.
Position. You're in 14th position. Magnussen ahead. Okay, gap ahead is 1.1 seconds. They're on fresh softs. Vettel is behind you. The gap is less than in a second. They're on fresh softs. You have 18 laps till your pit window opens.
So we've got Kevin Magnussen up ahead battling away with the Toro Rosso of Danny Kvyat, and we're going to get Kvyat on the exit here as he got squeezed out by Magnussen, and we're going to switch to the inside, dive down the inside of Kevin Magnussen, and he leaves space, but we misjudge it. More contact and more damage, and we just bump into the back of him again. More damage, and well, this has just turned into an absolutely awful race for us. It's all gone wrong, and our front wing is in pieces at the moment. So yeah, we're going to bring it in this lap, get some clean air, and just try to get our focus back. The number of pit stops in this race means that we do have an opportunity to come back into it. If this was a one stop, it'd be very hard to fight our way back into the race. But considering most people, I assume, will be doing a 3-stop, or at the very least a 2-stop, I think we have a good opportunity to be able to find our way back into the race after this stop. So in we come, and we grab a new front wing onto the car, and that will be a relief.
Exit now.
After driving for a little while with the damage, it will, if the car's going to feel amazing now as we exit the pit lane.
Right, we have 2 stops left in this strategy. We have 2 stops planned.
And off we go once again, and we're underway, and we are still ahead of Antonio Giovinazzi, so I assume after the contact we made, he must have made a pit stop. So unfortunate for Giovinazzi, that's the second time in the last 3 races we've got damage and come out ahead of him at the start of a Grand Prix. The last one was the Russian Grand Prix. But you can see on the screen now, George Russell retires with a mechanical failure. Unfortunate for him. The Williams team have been looking pretty decent.
Virtual safety car, reduce speed immediately and keep a positive delta.
But VSC comes out, doesn't really affect anything. No one makes a pit stop under the virtual safety car, I don't believe. So all things being equal at the moment.
VSC ending, we're going green. Maintain positive delta until the green flags.
So we get underway very shortly, and we can go and try to chase after the next car ahead of us, which at the moment is Kvyat. So when we catch up to him now, going through the first few corners, trying to line up a good exit off of turn 3, and we don't actually have DRS, I don't think. We're more than a second behind at the start of the main straight. He gives us a big squeeze on the way into turn 4. We cut the corner a little bit, not wanting to make the contact in the way we did with Kevin Magnussen. We get our way through ahead of Danny Kvyat, and next up is the Alfa Romeo of Kimi Raikkonen. And as we continue through the race, it's actually Hulkenberg that we catch up to next. Raikkonen finding his way through the field a little bit in the intervening time, and we're going to get very close behind Hulkenberg as we switch to the outside as we head into the stadium section, round the outside of Nico Hulkenberg, and we're a little bit off circuit. We come back on down the inside of Hulkenberg, and we get the move done, and that Toro Rosso is dreadfully slow through that last sector, and we get the move done on Hulkenberg. Now Kimi Raikkonen is up next once again. So as we move on, we do eventually catch up to Kimi Raikkonen as we head through the first sector once again, putting pressure on as we go through the other stadium section, and we are just waiting for an opportunity. Probably not going to find one in the middle sector, so we're probably going to get held up quite a bit here, but it's a long race, 100% distance, so there won't be too much of an issue if we lose a few seconds here and there. So on we go, and see if we can make a move into the final sector. Not going to happen into the stadium section. I did have a long hard think about it, but after already getting damaged once in this race, as we're almost pushing him through the stadium section, I decided not to take the risk on that occasion. But we get a nice exit out of the final corner, a shallower line, and we're going to take this position quite easily, I would imagine. To the right hand side, Kimi doesn't put up much of a fight, and we get that position.
Great maneuver.
Next up is Lando Norris, who I think also had a grid penalty in this race, so that explains why he is so far down in a relatively competitive McLaren. They've been getting top 10s mostly, but the race wins for them have been few and far between. There was one for Weber in Spain. I think that's the only race win for McLaren this season after starting off quite strong, but we're almost pushing Norris through the middle sector, but no opportunity to make an overtake until we get to the main straight. So here we come along the main straight, and we're going to have a look, but Norris himself making an overtake on Gasly. We go to the outside and get past both of them into the first corner and sweep around the outside, and we move our way up into 9th position. So things not looking too bad, but with everyone on different pit stop strategies, it is very difficult to tell where we are in reality. So we get past Kevin Magnussen, the one who caused us all of our issues in the first stint with the damage.
The car ahead has come in and fitted the soft tyre.
But
P5, you're in P5, Verstappen ahead.
I shouldn't say he caused it, that was really more my fault. But
Hamilton behind, they've just entered the pits. They're on fresh mediums. We think they've got one more stop.
One more stop for Lewis Hamilton. We've got 2 more. So on paper, Hamilton is still ahead of us as we just passed him exiting the pit lane there. So we're slowly sort of working out where we really sit in this race as the Haas of Devin Butler goes blazing past. We're not going to put up too much of a fight. At this point, Butler is running his own race. We can run our own, and hopefully we can make up the time later. But right now we're on some worn soft tyres, and the softs have never really been my tyre of choice all throughout this F1 2019 game.
Butler is ahead of you. They're on fresh softs. Their tyres are 8 laps old. We think they've got 2 stops remaining. The time last lap was a 1:19.3. They're pulling away from us at a rate of 1.8 seconds per lap.
So as we get that update on Devin Butler, he's on the same strategy as us, but Alex Albon finds his way through. We're not going to fight him too much. He is on running his own race at this point, but we eventually come in for our stop onto the first set of medium tyres for the day, and we'll come in again later on for the second set. So in we come to the box, medium tyres on, and
Go now.
this is where I think our race can turn around for us. We can really push on these tyres and during this stint, and
Okay, you only have to stop once now. 1 stop left.
try to make the difference, because our race has gone from looking good in 6th position.
P15. You're in P15. Stroll is ahead of you. They're on fresh softs. Hulkenberg is behind you. Okay, the gap behind is 22.4 seconds. They're on old softs. 20 laps until your pit window is open. We still have 45 laps to complete.
And yeah, we've gone from looking good in 5th or 6th to now being back in 15th position and having a lot of work to do. And I have no idea if these cars ahead of us are genuinely for position or if they're on different strategies at this point. So we just have to try to get past them and run the fastest race we can at this point. I think is really the only option, and we'll just see where we cross the line at the end of the race. It'll be somewhere between 5th and 15th, it seems. But bad exit as we enter the 3rd sector, and no opportunity to overtake Stroll. But Stroll overtakes Kevin Magnussen in a straight line. We get Magnussen as well round the outside into the first corner, and no issues there as we sit right behind Stroll through turns 2 and 3, basically pushing him through, but no opportunity to make a move. But as we head towards the stadium section, we go to the outside of Stroll.
The gap behind us is 1.6 seconds.
And goes to the outside again into the left-hander, but Stroll doing a brilliant job to defend the position, and we just can't make a move. So we're going to try to set up a good exit out of the final corner in the slipstream, and DRS open as we get to the detection point, and we'll try to make the move on the straight. It should be pretty easy. DRS open now, and we're just going to blaze straight past. No competition there with the DRS open. So we move on now, and we are catching up once again to Lando Norris, who I think has had a few issues in this race. and he's being generally quite slow. So we're going to try to make the move on Norris along the main straight in the same way we did to Lance Stroll, and it shouldn't be too much of an issue for us as we sit in the slipstream. DRS open, and we're just going to blaze straight on past Lando Norris, and again no real competition.
Nice work, that brings you up a place.
So next up is the Haas of Pierre Gasly battling away with Lucas Weber in the McLaren. So let's see if we can make a move on one or both of them along the main straight. We will have the DRS, but Gasly pits, and I almost follow him in, not really watching where I was going there. But that's cost a little bit of time, and as we open the DRS, Lucas Weber does not have DRS, so we're going to gain massively along this straight, and under brakes we close right up behind Lucas Weber. We may be able to make a move if we get a good exit out of turn 3, and we may be able to get past into turn 4. Not the greatest exit, but with DRS open again, and we may just about have an opportunity. We're gaining a lot once again, but Weber defends the line, and no real point in taking a risk there. So we're just going to sit behind our old teammate, and as we weave around trying to maintain control of the car, we're going to just wait again for another opportunity, and that might come along the straight once again as we head and wind our way through the final sector, the stadium section, and taking a big aggression over the curve. But Weber pits, so we get the DRS, and we have no one to overtake along the main straight. So clean air once again for us as Max Verstappen exits.
Verstappen behind, they're on fresh softs. We think they've got one more stop.
So we are legitimately ahead of Verstappen now. Both of us have one more stop, but Verstappen is going to steam straight past us along the straight, and there's not really a lot we can defend against that. So Verstappen is through and ahead of us on track once again, and he's on the fresh soft tyres, so no real surprise there. But as we continue on, we are now under pressure from Devon Butler. We're going to fight him off a little bit harder than Verstappen, simply because he is Devon Butler, and we hold on to the position on that occasion, and keep Devon Butler behind for another lap. He goes to the outside though, and he may actually just get this move done around the outside into the middle sector, and now we give up the position. Not really worth fighting in the end, I don't think. So Devon Butler gets through ahead of us, but there's still a long way to go in this one, so we'll see how it plays out in the end. But into the pits we come now, moving all the way on to our final stop of the race, and this will show where we really sit.
Okay, don't worry about the spin. Let's just get back up to speed. Careful on the next few corners, your rears might be a bit hot.
What are you going on about, Jeff? I didn't spin, I entered pit lane. But anyway, not sure what that was about. But at minimum now,
That was our last stop. No more scheduled pit stops.
we will be P12. There are still quite a few cars ahead of us that need to make that last pit stop. So things are looking a little bit better. We've only gained 3 positions since the last time we came out of pit lane in 15th. But I don't think that's too much to worry.
Gasly is ahead of you. They're on old softs. Their tyres are 13 laps old. We think they've got one more stop. The time last lap was a 1 minute 19.5.
Because basically everyone who's still on the soft tyres will need to make another pit stop because they haven't used the mediums yet.
P12. We have P12. Weber is ahead of you. Okay. Gap ahead is 4.0 seconds.
So eventually, as we continue on, Weber and Gasly continue to fight. They've been having a titanic battle all race, these two, and they keep going on with it, and it looks like this time Gasly has got the benefit as we get the DRS and we make the move on Lucas Weber around the outside. We're going to go to the inside of Pierre Gasly, and that was all looking a bit too much like the collision we had with Kevin Magnussen, so I decided to back out of it. Weber sends one to the inside of turn 5, and we swipe back at him a little bit, but we don't get any damage. I don't think he got any damage, so we can both continue on, but Weber getting very aggressive there. But we move on again, and we're going to blaze straight past Pierre Gasly in a straight line as the Red Bull car leaves pit lane, and we jump him. I believe that was Lewis Hamilton. So Things are still going in an upward trend in this race.
Ninth position. Ricardo is ahead of you. Gap to car in front is 4.8 seconds.
And with Ricardo ahead, he definitely has more stops to make. So as more cars enter pit lane, we move up into
P7
7th.
now. P7. Ricardo is ahead of you. Our gap to the car in front is 2.6 seconds.
And we are gaining quite... Oh, we've got a problem for Charles Leclerc.
There's something strange with the engine. What's happening?
We have no age recovery.
Yeah, but I can't... Oh my...
That is an absolute disaster for our teammate, and that is more or less title fight over for him, unfortunately. So yeah, that is very sad to see. We move over and say hello to him as he's parked off the edge of the road there. No VSC this time for him, despite parking in exactly the same place as George Russell. But that is very sad to see for Charles Leclerc. But what that means for us is if we get in the top 2 in this race, we will beat Charles Leclerc. We will lock out this championship and put it beyond doubt that we will be the champions of Season 2. So that is the goal now.
Charles is out of the race.
As, yeah, very unfortunate though for Charles that we couldn't continue this fight, because he would have got a good bank of points today. He was running in, I think, 2nd place. The race leader at the moment is the home favourite Sergio Perez, who's been driving a brilliant race, it has to be said. But yeah, for us, P2 is the target now, as we're under pressure.
4th position. You're in 4th position. Verstappen is ahead of you. The gap to the car ahead is 3.6 seconds. Hamilton is behind you. The gap to the leader is 29. See these tires through to the end now. 17 laps to go.
As Jeff does some magic, saying several sentences at the same time. We don't fight Hamilton too hard, because I decided it might be worth trying to work with him here and see if we can both together close up to Max Verstappen, because I just don't quite feel like I have the pace to do that myself. As we continue on though, we do get the DRS and we will make the move on Hamilton.
As things stand, we'll be leading the championship.
And we'll be leading the championship, obviously. I thought if the championship was locked out and we were guaranteed to win, he might say something different, but it turns out that is not the case. He just says we are leading, but at that point we are not quite confirmed to be the champions. But anyway, as we continue on, you can see my strategy has worked, and Lewis Hamilton is right behind Max Verstappen. So we're going to see if we can make a move on both of them on the main straight, as we have done in the past with the DRS being very, very powerful along this main straight. We may have a good opportunity. So here we go, along the straight, DRS open, Hamilton goes for the move on Max Verstappen on the right hand side. We've got the slipstream from Verstappen, and we get the move done, and now we got a bit of slipstream from Hamilton.
You're into P4.
Round the outside of the British driver, and we get the move done. That's a really nice move on both of the Red Bulls there, and we find our way up onto the podium for I think the first time since the very first 2 laps of this race where we started. But that is a really nice move on Hamilton and Verstappen, and now it is just Devon Butler up the road who we have to overtake if we want to win this championship today. But we move on, and the Red Bull cars are not done, as Lewis Hamilton comes back down the inside. But we don't want to waste too much time with this. We're going to hold it around the outside to the inside of turn 2, and hopefully we can hold this through around the outside of turn 3. Hamilton gets a bad exit, and we maintain the position ahead of the 5-time champion. So moving on again, and we clear of Lewis Hamilton.
P3. You are currently in P3. Butler ahead. Our gap to the car in front is 8.0 seconds. Butler is ahead of you. Okay. Gap ahead is 8.2 seconds. Butler ahead. The gap to the car ahead is 7.2 seconds. Butler is ahead of you. Our gap to the car in front is 1.8 seconds. 5 laps till the end.
So we're very close to the end of the race now, and you can see we are very also close to Devon Butler, as he's being held up by a couple of the lap cars, the Alfa Romeos, getting in the way of him. So we have gained a good 7 seconds or 6 seconds from these lap cars holding up Devon Butler. So that is something insane. But we're having a little bit of trouble here, but we do eventually get down the inside of the second Alfa Romeo, cut the corner a little bit to make sure we don't make any silly contact, but we quite slow through the next few corners, so it doesn't really gain us too much time. But we are right behind Devon Butler, so maybe he's had some issues as well in his own car, because he did seem quite slow through that last sector compared to how Gasly was going in the other Haas. But we get the DRS open, and in the slipstream along the main straight we switch to the left hand side, and he has no opportunity to defend that. We sweep around and take second place in this race, and with that we have enough points to win the championship today, and that is an absolutely perfect scenario for us as we head on to now the final lap of the Grand Prix. Sergio Perez,
This is your final lap of the race.
has a massive lead in this race, and there's not really a lot we're going to be able to do about that, but it will be a deserving race win for Sergio Perez. He took the lead in the opening phases amongst all the chaos with myself and Verstappen, Weber all having a bit of a come together, but actually he was already in the lead at that point. That overtake from him is sort of what triggered all of that way back on the first lap, and the contact with Verstappen. But here he is, Sergio Perez comes around the final corner to win the Mexican Grand Prix. It will be a very popular victory for the home favourite, and a comeback to form for Ferrari. But there is an even more momentous occasion for us as we come around through the final sector, because not only will we complete a pretty solid comeback drive after some damage on lap 2, but we're also going to come around for a podium, and we will have enough points to win the Formula 1 Drivers' Championship. And Jeff is absolutely speechless.
It's certainly been an incredible year for Formula 1, and our drivers have all pushed themselves this season, making it one of the most compelling years of racing in history. There can only be one champion, however, and here they are now, our new Formula 1 World Drivers' Champion.
I think I broke something.
Well, what a drive that was to take the win for Ferrari today. Anthony Davidson, how do you think they were able to set themselves apart today?
I'd say it was down once again to good, consistent driving, nailing the corners, working to the track conditions, and perfecting the team strategies. They got all of these things right today, and the results speak for themselves.
Let's have a quick look at how the drivers' standings have changed. This also means that there's no catching our leader anymore, and we crown a new World Drivers' Champion. Now, let's discuss, Ant. Who would you say is a contender for Driver of the Day?
I have to say Sebastian Vettel certainly caught my eye during today's race. Incredible driving.
With that result, the title is secure, and it's Racing Point who've claimed the honours. Their days of struggling in the midfield now seem a distant memory. They're a giant in this sport now, and truly a force to be reckoned with. It's been an absolutely wild weekend of Formula 1 action. I can't wait to see what's next.
So we get the double the Drivers' and Constructors' Championship today. So it is, in the end of the day, a very good day in the office for us. A shame that Leclerc couldn't finish the race and sort of celebrate that. But I guess we did wrap up the Constructors last time with a 1-2. So I guess there's that. But yeah, for this race, look at Leclerc down the inside. Very aggressive there. Trying to make moves on the first lap. Didn't quite work out for him. But yeah, very aggressive off the start. But anyway, Yeah, the race kind of went wrong for us very early when we were battling away with Lucas Weber and Sergio Perez, and the contact with Verstappen that sent us off, and a bit of bad decision making right at that moment. But oh well, and poor old Giovinazzi there. I think that was very unfortunate for him, just caught up in an incident that wasn't his fault, and more bad luck for the Italian. But yeah, that is just about it. Not too much to talk about. It was a good comeback. Had a lot of good battles with Lance Stroll in particular. Had a great battle with him, and a few with the Red Bulls. The overtake on Verstappen and Hamilton was mega, and we probably will see that in the highlights at some point. Weber and Gasly had a good battle all race long, which was good to see for a part of the race that we were following then. So yeah, a lot of battling, and Sebastian Vettel, a good drive through the field after starting a bit lower than he would have liked. And yeah, what else? Didn't see Bottas at all throughout this race, really. I guess we sort of must have jumped ahead of him without really ever seeing him.
First of all, congratulations. You must be thrilled.
Well, yeah.
You're surpassing all expectations. Can anything or anyone stop you?
Well, I think officially we can say no to that now.
Judging from today's race, it must be pretty hard to fend off Devon when he wants to pass.
Yeah, he had really good pace in the race today, but he got caught up in some traffic towards the end, some lap traffic, and that cost him. But yeah, he had good pace.
Do you think you were lucky not to end your race with that crash?
Oh yeah, definitely. It was a silly mistake, and I can't blame Verstappen too much.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Claire. So that brings this Grand Prix weekend, the Mexican Grand Prix weekend, to a close. We end up winning the rivalry with Charles Leclerc after losing it for so long. And we actually win the one with Lucas Weber as well at the same time. So that will be quite a few bonus resource points for us in the bank, and we'll get some mega upgrades on the car. Heading into the final 3 rounds of the season. We've got USA, and then Brazil and Abu Dhabi. So looking forward to finishing off this season, and that'll really be it for this game. But there you go, World Drivers' Champion.
To say congrats on the podium. It's thoroughly deserved. We were sweating those last few laps on the pit wall, but you brought it home.
Thanks, Jeff. So there you go, World Drivers' Champion. And well, that is really it for the season. Obviously I will finish it off just to do those last 3 races, see if we can get a couple more trophies for our trophy cabinet. I'd love to win the Brazilian Grand Prix. I think that would be quite a good one. But US Grand Prix, I'm not so sure that I'll have the pace to do that. Obviously Leclerc will wanted to defend his pride in the last few races. So there's still plenty left to play out. Brazil last season was an absolute cracker, so we'll be looking forward to that one. And to be fair, the last 3 races of the last season were all very, very good. So I'm looking forward to seeing what the AI can get up to in this season. See if we can get anything close to what we had last year. But anyway, we'll have a look at the upgrades. We'll get the major engine upgrade on the left hand side there, and that will go on the car for the Brazilian Grand Prix. And we'll also get the 2 minor aero upgrades as well. They will come on for USA. And on the chassis side, can we afford anything here? Doesn't really. Yeah, we can. So we'll get a major weight redistribution upgrade as well for the Brazilian Grand Prix. So we've got a lot of upgrades coming in for Brazil, 2 majors, and we've also got 2 minors and a major coming in for Kota. So looking forward to that, and I will see you for that episode very, very soon. Thank you, and goodbye.